go for main engine, start.
From the trenches of motorsports and Gearhead Central, this is RealTuners Radio, your all-motor, boosted, and nitrous-fed hour of power. Now, here's your hosts, the Reverends of RPM, the Faction of Traction, John Bewley, Scott Clark, Bill Fowler, Scott Evans, Mark Dahlquist, Mike Perduto, James Short, Tom Sewell, Brian Barnhill. This is RealTuners Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to RealTuners Radio. This is episode 146. I think that is. It's 8 o'clock Central Time. February 3rd, 2021. Thank you so much for tuning in. We were off the air for a couple of weeks because it's kind of busy season starting back up, at least somewhat. If your doors are still open, thanks to all the COVID-19 stuff, everybody freaking out about that still. Welcome back. It's good to have everybody here. And we were sorry we were off the air for a couple of weeks there. So, well, let's see here. We got a new conference system in the house, so I'm trying to make sure I can drive this thing here. Okay, everybody, I'm asking everybody to unmute themselves. Well, guys, can you hear me okay? Brian, anybody?
Yep. I got you.
Yep. I can sort of hear you. All right, cool. That part's working. All the blinking lights are blinking. All the things are doing their thing. Looks like it's all working. Okay. Producer Jason is remote tonight. He's off site running the server from his lakefront castle. Okay, so let's see what's going on. So first off, did you guys catch that the I want to mispronounce it so bad, but the Tuatara, the SSC Shelby Supercars thing, posted a new official record now. They used a different GPS. Their whole problem was that other GPS or something. So anyway,
there's a lot there. Before we go on, Perduto and Fowler are waiting for you to let
them in, I see this. Hold on. Admit and admit. Dang it, I gotta fix that. The default settings are force me to admit them to the meeting or whatever. But Mike probably saw my shirt and was like, oh dude, Mike, you don't need to be here. I'm advertising for you tonight.
Yes, their whole problem was they got other GPS.
There he is.
So anyway,
yay.
I hear the stream playing from somebody's got audio.
Someone's on their phone and it's playing through. That's probably Bill.
Yeah, sorry, that's me. I was trying to figure out what was going on, and the only thing I could see was the stream.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I think I'm in. Am I in? Hello?
You're in. You're here. I'll ask Tom to unmute. I guess I don't have to. This is a little bit different than the other
Welcome
one.
to the party.
Yes. Now, so the Tuatara thing. Brian, what was the story now? How fast are they really?
So, man, I forget the.
No one knows.
289, I believe. Yeah, let me double check. I forget what it wound up averaging to. It was significantly less than what
it was
they
like 30 mile an hour slower.
Yeah. So, I will say it does look like the record's legit this time. They do have a lot backing it up. I think they probably changed who they're using as their main data logger because of the politics around the last one, and the other guys basically are like, screw. I don't think the other guys wanted to be involved with it.
I mean, I feel you. I don't want to get tied up with some certain players on that team either, but the bottom line is, I mean, to me, it looks like somebody's passing the buck or something. I've yet to watch the video of that Shelby guy or whatever just openly admitting, look, dude, yeah, all right, we tried to pull one on you. I'm sorry. Or someone pulled one on me. I don't know. Give me a break. But there's no way you didn't know how fast that thing wasn't actually going. That doesn't happen. GPS loggers don't.
That's really so. The record's legit, but it's going to always be tainted. And we said this when we talked about it last time. Even when they said it, everyone's going to be like, "Oh, well, did you really?" And the biggest thing to me is they were trying to tout this 300 plus mile an hour car. and I believe so. They did it at an average of 282.9, which beat it's like 4 miles an hour. 278, 279 was where the Koenigsegg was before. I'm trying to. It was 279, 278 point something, I believe. So now we're talking about they beat it by. So it's 279.7 and a 286.1 return. So 282.9. So they beat it by 3 miles an hour instead of 33. So yeah, because they tried to claim a record of 316.11 miles an hour.
Oh, come on.
So yeah, we've got.
So they ended up where everybody's calculated speed weren't they?
That was
Remember,
exactly.
wasn't there
Yeah,
people
that's right. That is right. Yeah,
trying to figure out based on markers in the video? I mean, they
Right,
ended up being really close, didn't they?
yeah. That's hilarious.
So a little over 33 miles an hour slower than their previous run. So
I mean,
it's definitely
man,
impressive, but it's hard
sure.
to be impressed when you guys just because they didn't even say anything. They weren't even like, well, maybe. They just straight up kind of just. Well, so this is their actual third attempt as well. They tried to get so the original one that was botched that they said they did 316 was October. They tried again in December, couldn't do it, and all of the people saying, "Oh, you can't do this speed with the gearing." Guess what? They had to change their gearing for this run to hit those speeds. So there's even a guess
the gearing,
that they may not
yeah.
have quite been at the speed that they were because of their gearing.
I mean, how are they not figuring that out?
There. Yeah, it's definitely interesting. Like it's neat, but it's hard to be impressed with it like you are when Koenigsegg does records. And the thing with Koenigsegg too is I had a list of their records. Their records aren't just so Koenigsegg overall has the 0 to 300 kilometer record, 0 to 200 mile an hour record, 300 to 0, 200 to 0, 0 to 300 to 0, 0 to 200 to 0. Then on the Agera, they have 0 to 400 to 0 in 36.44 seconds.
I mean, these are not. First off, okay, Greg Schmidt is listening in. I love Greg. You got to. Wasn't it like 284 mile per hour for a production car in double quotes? How many do you need to produce to qualify for this? That's what I want to know. First off, there's no homologation for internet fucking records.
There's a number they're supposed to. Well, so that's what I looked up last time. So their last SSC's last car, they built of the one that set the record, they built 3 ever. But it was based on their other, I forget which car that was, the Ultima Aero. It was based on it, even if you don't count the special versions, there were like 33 cars ever built, versus the Koenigsegg was not a lot, but the Agera, I looked up, I have to go back and watch that video. I talked about it there on what the production runs were, and it's, calling it a production car is definitely a stretch. It's only a production of the fact that they handled them all kind of sort of the same.
I was gonna say 3 is nothing. My wife has produced that many children out of her vagina, and it's not a production vagina. You know, like, that's just not fucking impressive. Sorry, like, come on.
Man, it's only 9. It's not even 10 minutes in, and we're already here.
We can go home now. That comment will not be beat tonight.
Tom's
that ended everything right there.
Oh my god. So that's the Tuatara thing. They were lying. That guy's a liar. Bottom line,
Yeah, so
liar.
This record's legit. Like, it's been backed up by multiple GPSs and multiple people. It hit that speed, and I would say it's fairly reasonable.
I understand that, but to me, it's a tarnished thing anyway. Because look, you tried to pull one off on us, and the only reason that guy didn't go out and decide, we better run this
YouTube
again.
got bored and looked at your video.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody got really bored and looked at your video.
It's like pick your Barry Bonds record or anything like that. They're always going to be asterisks.
And this is why I don't care to be the second fastest 240Z on chrome lug nuts. You know what I mean? I don't. That's that. Those records to me just don't impress as much as, hey, let's give a
highest
little shout
horsepower
out.
car on stock turbo. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That
let's
does
give a
push
couple
it
of
to
shout
the
outs real quick. Number one, I see some buddies on here: Jesse Coburn, Josh Kinsey. Good to see you guys. Joe Sorbello, Mark Thompson. Hello, everyone. But just a quick shout out: Chris Delgado, a frequent guest in front of me of the show. The White Rice car, man, they went finally. Well, they went rounds at the Bradenton race this last weekend, and all the way up against with another customer of ours, Rob Goss, and all the way to the finals, and Goss edged them by just a shit, dude. It was a close race, man. It was not even like a fender, was it? But anyway, congratulations to the Pro Speed guys and Chris Delgado, because it was fun watching something that's not the same combo as everybody else. Go around. So I thought that was pretty cool. Oh, James needs in. Admit James. Okay, James, you're let in. What else? Yeah, apparently they can't math on the gearing, says Jesse. Agreed. I mean, come on. They tried to pull one off on everybody. So I hate to say that I predicted it, but I've got some experience with some people in that group. How do we avoid getting another cease and desist letter? I'm trying to think of how to say that, but I had trust issues from the beginning when I read about that car. That's all I'm going to say. We'll just leave it at that. Or maybe their engine lost through 700 horsepower, and that's why it was 25 mile an hour slower this time. Let's see. So what else happened? The Bradenton races this last weekend. Perdido, weren't you there and tuning cars?
We were, sir. We were there.
Did you guys go some rounds? How did it go?
No, we showed up with a car that had never even done a burnout before. And we ended up making the show. I mean, if that counts or anything. But we struggled early on. Literally, car had never even done anything other than go up on two-step prior to showing up to that race. We ended up showing up. The car went like a 5.0. I forget what mile an hour on motor. And then, what was that? 139 on motor, Bewley tells me.
Not bad.
He's over there laying on the couch.
Get Bewley's ass on here. Where the fuck
He's over there laying on the couch being boring.
We love him. Send our love.
Then, we lit the kit. The car did a little left-hand turn, a little shimmy shake, still went a 470. And then finally on the fourth pass in round one, I kicked its dick in the dirt, and Tim put a suspension setup in it just to make it go to B, and it ended up going 440s. So for the fourth pass ever on the car, I think we did pretty damn good. But we still got a mile to go, so we got to go farther. Right. But no, good time. Rain race was a good time. Obviously, some bad stuff happened. Not everyone's seen it. No need to talk about it, but it was an overall good time. Yeah, it sucks. Accidents happen. We're not going to dwell on that too much, because every other live stream between then and now has grandstanded for hours on that situation. That sucks. And like I've told everyone, guys, when it happened, I made it. Everyone will tell you, I made it my personal. I didn't even go down there. I don't want to. Everything all night long was rumors of what happened. We sat at the trailer, we relaxed, and I stayed away from it before we got ourselves in trouble. So good. Yeah, it sucks. That situation sucks, but there's no point in grandstanding about it. It sucks. I feel for the guy's family. The things move on. It's kind of shocking when things like that happen, because it doesn't happen often in drag racing. There's more frequent wrecks out front of my neighborhood entrance, than there are in all the racetracks for drag racing in all the last 2 years. Just happens. Let's see here. So the guy talking is very low volume. I don't know. That was Brian earlier was.
Oh, got it. Okay, sorry. Thanks, Pro Stock John.
I turned it down when you guys said I was too loud.
Oh, sorry. You overturned it.
Back up now.
I think we're doing
okay.
I
had the auto volume set. I found the tick box for it.
Yeah, there's a lot of little detail things that have changed on Zoom versus Ring Central.
That's hopefully better.
Now it's a little bit too much, man. You might be back in the middle. Do you have like a knob? Put it halfway between those 2 points. So Jerry 3567 said, Clark, how is the Turbine project come along? Pretty damn good, except I'm waiting for analog thermocouple amplifiers is my problem. I need to feed them analog to the Speeduino. We don't have any more SPI ports, or I don't have any room on the SPI bus, and we don't have I2C room either. So the let's see what else is going on with that project. So I've got all the kit, all the parts ready to put on a breadboard. I've got to figure out the weird temp sensors on the oil temp for that engine and the air temp. And if they give me any hard time, we're going straight to GM temp sensors, because the guy's like, I could put something in here for the 3/8 NPT or whatever it is. So I think we got all the parts we need, and we're supposed to head up there to the dyno. It's outside of Omaha, Nebraska. So we're going to head up there, I think, early next week for a 3-day stint on the dyno. And the goal is just to get this thing to start, run, and ease its way up to wide open to figure out what the EGTs are going to be at that 5,000 horsepower number. So, and that's topping out the dyno that we happen to be on, the engine dyno.
All right, who's tapping on the keyboard? Because that's all you can hear.
Evans.
All right, Evans, mute yourself, sir.
Busted.
Might be me.
It might have been somebody else. Evans was muted. You just got yelled at by the sound guy. He's like, bitch, don't. I'm the last guy on here. Right.
I'm the city town guy, so it's not me the one.
Right. That's great. I like that. His camera's good. Evans, I love your background, by the way, dude. You clearly put some work into that, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you. Trying to have some fun with it.
No, it's good. It looks good, man. I like it. That's good. Gonna get Big Chief back on soon. Man, he's been bugging me to try and do a class at a track, and I'm like, I gotta call him up and tell him how like fiscally impossible that's gonna be right now until they unlock us in some of this stuff.
I got a track again this year. So
I know Tom's a track owner now, so we'll work on it.
See.
No, truth be told, that's probably where we're gonna try it first. Tom, is with you, since I know you. That way, if we fuck it up and look stupid, we can look stupid as a group instead of individually stupid. It's always better.
I'm down with that. Stupid as a group is always better.
It's stupid as a group works sometimes. So let's see. Let's see. Caleb Dunstan. Good to see you guys here, man. All you guys. Pro Stock John, welcome John Ryan. Kenny Howard's in here. I knew it because he was bitching earlier. Hey, you guys gonna have a show? If it wasn't for his reminder, I would have forgot to put up the damn event on Facebook. The Facebook event thing, they force you to put live videos and events now, and that's hard to find. Like sometimes you can't even find it. You have to go to Scott Clark's page and search under events, unless I shared it with you specifically.
The biggest thing, it doesn't show up that it's going to be a live video either. It kind of puts it there, but it just has like this little event page. And then at some point, once it goes live, it pops up at the top, and they make it it's not nearly as nice, especially if you don't want to go full screen and have other windows open like we do.
Side Al Capone. Caleb, what car are you racing? I thought I saw every car in no time. I'm trying to figure out which car you were. If you went to the finals, I thought Shaver went to the finals. I don't remember. I didn't pay enough attention in no time. I apologize. And yeah, Kenny, thank you.
Actually, that's a good point. There's Mark Thompson mentioned that he has the notification for when we go live. Is that on the event, or is that only for Scott? Because I think that was part of the problem, that it's when Scott goes live from his personal Facebook, it only gets broadcast to people that are friends with Scott on Facebook, and there becomes a point where that's just not feasible for one person to do.
No, I know. But then I got to get everybody to log in or to be on the Facebook or the fan page or whatever, right? I got to figure out a better way to do that. I should just do them from the business. But when I first started doing this,
the better way to do it.
No, they wouldn't let you do it as a business when I started. But in order to even see the posts, now they have to like the business to see. You can't have the business make them generic. The business can't do a live video and share it now.
Can you not go live as the page?
Oh, you can, but the only people who will see it are people who already clicked like on RealTuners, the business, right? So what sucks about that is if you want to promote that video, you have to pay for it. They want you, if you want to put your business event video in front of people, the only way the public can see it that don't already like your shit is by paying for it. which I mean, I'm okay. I guess we could do that if we wanted to. I hate like serious advertising overdoing it. I more just like to let people know, hey, we're here. Number one. Number two, did you notice that there's not effing videos playing on our YouTube stream? You know why? That's because we're not trying to be a YouTube hero and monetize.
Yeah, I
Oops,
guess
gotta
that goes
reset
for
my
anyone
camera.
listening. Go to the group page or as much as you can and get notifications when we go live.
Yeah, the Real Tuners Radio podcast fan page is the place to be on that. So anyway, yeah, that's the Facebook is weird. I recommend go check out YouTube. I mean, we're actually putting your the YouTube questions are actually up on the screen. So if you want to have your question typed on screen or say, hey, Scott Clark is a wife beater dickhead or whatever, and you want to put it up there, then you can say that.
I have a challenge right now. Let's see how people can type up "We all read our spark plugs" and push enter.
PJ NATO is here live, whatever. I mean, I know you guys, everybody reads their spark plugs and everybody has to talk about it on Facebook because it's like, it's this competition on Facebook. I'm gonna tell people I'm the best tuner, but I got to be better than the other guy or whatever. But of course, so everybody talks about reading spark plugs. My point is I'll put 7, 8 plugs in front of 8 people and I'll get 8 complete different results. So it's not a realistic science. I actually read plugs like Startup and Idle.
It's like everything else. So it was the conversation. James had some good points in it where someone was talking about dyno versus non-dyno tuning and, you know, how do you know what you're doing? Like when have you hit MBT if you're not using a dyno? And someone basically trying to talk about, you know, you can't tune without a dyno at all. And, you know, there's some valid arguments all around, but you're going to get different discussions everywhere around. It's just about how you use all the tools you have.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, and I get it. You know, when you have a combo that runs at almost the same RPM and same load down the track, and you're used to the gas, and once you get it tuned, then you can look at the plug and then kind of refer to that. You know what I mean? But again, you know, so I sometimes tell the story.
I'm more with you. I'm not really a spark plug read. They usually they're coming out when I'm trying to find a problem and seeing what the difference in a plug is, and you know, if we're doing something that an inspection, but it's not necessarily my first go-to unless I'm limited for some other reason.
See, I'm the opposite. I like reading spark plugs, you know, but I've been doing this a long time. It's like any tool out there. If you're not using it right, it's going to give you bad results. You know what I mean? I've seen people take torque wrenches and snap them real fast and get a false reading on it. So, you know, it's all about how
we're just going to have
that was
to
my
do
point. Like, I get
we're
why
going to have
guys
to do
do
a contest. We're going to have to do a contest where we run a plug and we're going to send it around to a bunch of different people and we're going to get their idea on it. And then we're going to go find out what tune changes it actually wanted to be optimized. And then you guys are going to see exactly where I'm coming from. And the only reason I'm doing this is I'm sitting here looking at my pictures. Someone asked me to count how many.
With you, there's definitely people that read spark plugs wrong. You know how many pictures I get? The spark plug, it's all white, it's lean. And I'm like, no, that's the cadmium burning off the fucking spark plug.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be doing that.
So the only 2 people I've ever been with that were able to call spark plug shots and tell me tune changes that were really nailed it were Keith Dorton and Lump from Elite, the pro stock guy. Those are the only, and they were both on engine combos. And Keith Dorton, it was so funny. He's like, nah, whenever I read plugs, I put in this one specific brand and type of plug. I do my reading there. Then we change out and run to these other type of plugs for actual running for the
You
event.
tune on NGKs and you run on auto lights.
Yeah, it was something to that effect. But I mean, he was using surface gap plugs as well. These are NASCAR engine cup stuff I was working on. But anyway, he's even told me that he doesn't buy into plug reading generally. He says, I'll take but this is funny. He did one thing that I have observed that I'll watch in plug reading, but it's usually for endurance type applications. But he says he'll feel how sharp the edges of the ground strap is. That gives you an idea how fast you're wearing down the sharp edges on the ground strap. I do that same thing. I'll drag the ground strap across the fingernail. And if a brand new plug out of the box will cut your fingernail, it'll leave a mark in your top of your fingernail with the corner of the ground strap. And you'll notice one of the first things going away, no matter what 17 plug readers are telling you 17 things, you can still tell that edge starts getting dulled. And, you know, that's something that I see, but that's usually after a 90-second blast on the salt or something like that is where you start seeing those kind of changes. But we used to use that ERC fuels at Bonneville for years. They were the event sponsor, and their fuel was so cold burning, you couldn't read any plug. If you could read something on the plug, you had burning holes in pistons at that point. And there were so many people struggle with that out there. And that's my reasoning for, I just gave up on plug reading because I'm able to get them closer on a dyno with simple O2s and timing. And then if you want to get serious about per cylinder tuning, then you go straight to the combustion pressure, or at least EGTs and AFR per cylinder. At least,
I think it's a whole lot application specific too.
Oh, dude, you nailed it. I think James nailed it. It's application specific, and I believe firmly once you've made 20 or 30 passes on your combo, you can read the plug on that thing. Then, like I agree with that. You can read the plug. Like James, I would trust James reading the plug on his car any fucking day if all the sensors went out, because he's seen 100 plugs and he knows what they're going to look like.
Exactly. Once you're familiar with that combo and the thing is, the heat range thing it screws everything up.
Yes, it does.
Some guys will throw.
It throws the whole reading of the plug off because the heat range isn't right. You know what I mean? It's like trying to paint your wall with the wrong paintbrush. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so if you're using the wrong tool, of course it's going to give you bad results.
Mark Thompson. I'm sorry, Mark. He pushed a head gasket. Man, he pushed a head gasket on like 11 degrees of timing too. It sucked.
So I was sitting next to Darren Mayer all weekend. For those that don't know, Darren Mayer, DMPE, he is the blower cylinder head / engine guy for all of Kalida's Top Fuel. And he does the engine and drivetrain work in Dustin Jackson's Radio vs. the World / Pro 275 car. Good friend of mine from Texas. And he pulls plugs after an idle session. He pulls plugs after a free rev. And he pulls plugs every single pass. And I actually learned a little bit more from him this weekend. We were having fun joking around, and him and Scott Clark's views on spark plug readings, let's just say, are polar opposite, because Darren will tell you if a guy doesn't pull spark plugs out, I wouldn't let him tune my lawnmower.
I mean, he can say that if he wants, but I'll bet that guy $1,000. We put that engine on the engine dyno, I'll get more power out of it in fewer pulls than he can by reading plugs.
But you're gonna
send my love.
You're gonna
say whatever the fuck he wants.
You're gonna go through 6 sets of rods, 4 sets of pistons, and everything else, trying to figure all that out.
He might. I won't.
The thing is, you can't put every car on an engine dyno. It's
no. I get it. I get it. And you can't put. I'm just saying. Let's put it on a chassis dyno if you think you find one that'll hook it. You know what I mean? We'll do it however you want.
My thing is, what are you?
Problem is people are out there reading plugs when they're going down the track, riding dots or track control, and on the 2-step and all kinds of crazy shit. Like, you can't really use that.
Yeah, but I mean, how are you going to race the car? How are you going to race the car on no prep? These guys, every one of my customers is using power management now. Raise your hand if you have a drag car that doesn't need power management anymore. Look at like Perduto, the stuff he's tuning. You can't just let that thing rip.
But the idea is you shouldn't. I mean, you need to. I believe in reading the plugs and look at them, because if you're blowing your shit up or you're hurting parts, the plug's going to show it. You know what I mean? But there's a big difference between trying to get that last degree of timing out of it to go faster and going down there and blowing the tires off all the way down the track and looking at this plug going, oh man, we could use another 2 degrees. That's 2 different things. You know what I mean? You're trying to use a square plug in a round hole. That's not what it's there for.
I'll be honest, I very seldom pull a plug anymore on most of the stuff that I do, unless it's a nitrous car, because most of the time, of course, I have a dyno at my disposal, so that's a little different. But I mean, you get so comfortable making tune adjustments, when to stop.
Yeah, I mean, if the diminishing returns starts to yield, yes, exactly. When it starts to yield, I mean, why even fuck around with that? So I remember, one case, a pro stock engine on the engine dyno, and these guys are looking at me at Elite, and they're like, yeah, we get about 3 pulls out of this thing before we need about an hour and about $6,000 worth of parts to make another pull. You know what I mean? To put this thing back together. So it's about 3 pulls, it's going to eat its valve train. And you're going to stand around there, and none of them guys are reading plugs. You don't fucking read plugs for something like that. But I mean, and I get it. Not everybody can put it on the engine dyno, but that's where we could start. But I would, like I said, there's 2 guys in the country so far that I would trust on the plug reading thing. And everybody thinks they can do it for everyone because they've done it once on one car. Right. And suddenly, I could read plugs. I shot a gun one time. I could teach you how to shoot guns. Now that's bullshit. That's total horseshit. And the reason I know this, the reason I'm saying this is to go through my pictures. There's like we counted 60 different engine dyno shops the other day. We were just goofing around. How many different dyno shops have we been to in the last 10 years? It was like 58 or something that we counted in the pictures. And I'm just like, every one of those situations, something totally different.
I have a question for you.
My argument is, it depends on the person. I've seen people use engine dynos and chassis dynos wrong. We've all seen it where somebody's been on the engine dyno it picked up 2 horsepower, so they're putting more timing in it because it picked up. It's like, no, that's not what you should be doing.
Well,
you know
sure.
I mean? So it's all about, who's using the tool. So
hang on, I got Tom. I got a question. So if you've made that many pulls, and let's just use nitrous combinations. That's your most common plug puller. And an 1800 horsepower nitrous car, how long can you run one set of plugs before you start to see the engine horsepower fall off? I know the answer to this because I've done it at least 24 times on multiple different cars.
About
shit,
300
nitrous?
feet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man, it starts to fall off before the, certainly before the 8th on a nitrous combo.
About a solid 1900 horsepower car.
Mhm.
4 passes, you will literally watch ET fall off a time slip.
For
Those
sure.
plugs are done.
For
And
sure.
They have to come out.
I mean, aren't all the nitrous guys I ever worked with we were pulling them every single pass?
We swap them every pass. Sometimes if we're turned down in a no prep race and we just want to go, 450s, 440s, something in that range, and we're just looking to make 80 passes, I might go 2 to 3, but that's it.
That's all the more reason to ditch that nitrous and go turbo.
All the guys who are saying that you got to read plugs on everything can read
When
plugs
turbo
on one
cars light
combo.
candles, I'll be way more apt to make that swap.
Yeah, just go no prep and retard enough timing. It'll do it.
Well, no, we did that. Who was it? It was at Ray Barton's shop. They were big. They'll look at plugs, but he was probably the first guy that kind of said, this is a bunch of bullshit. But
yeah, I will say, like, it is nice pulling plugs, especially if they're fresh, to
And
look
seeing
at
that they're
timing
there.
mark and stuff. Well, but
It's like nothing else.
usually,
It's another tool, and it's nice to confirm what your sensors say, and vice versa.
yeah, I mean, I don't do any fuel adjustments based on
Exactly. It's
plugs.
not
That's what a damn
useless
wide
tool.
band's for.
yeah, exactly. There's a whole reason we have wide bands. I mean, I'm telling you, the reason we have a timing light is,
There's a bunch of guys that say, oh, well, O2s don't read right on certain combos and
Nitrous.
bullshit.
That's bullshit. Yeah,
Nope.
that's such bullshit.
There is not a wideband built today that reads a big nitrous card. Prove me wrong.
I'll show you.
I guess it depends on the exhaust that's on it too. I mean, most of those cars have zoomies or something. And
No, it depends on your exhaust temps. It
Because
totally depends
nitrous,
on where you're putting it.
because O2s will read hydrogen. And if your nitrous car's tuned right, you're putting pure hydrogen out in the pipe, hence why you're lighting a candle.
All right. I was going to say, I tuned a car that was clocking off top ETs and Ultra Street that had 8 O2s per cylinder. And it was about 1,500 horse small block Ford. And we had O2s. We had the right O2s at the right EGT temp, and it had candles lit like a motherfucker. And it was, at one point, was running first and second in class a couple seasons ago.
What were your O2s reading?
What were they reading? Exactly what we wanted. I mean, they were
about a car that did, where the cam, you knew the cam was right. Everything was right on that car. So everything's going to be perfect.
Oh, well, I mean, it's,
you know what I mean?
I don't know about perfect, because if you've ever done something that Brad can.
It was good. It was in the ballpark. You know what I mean?
But it was also a real race engine, right? So I don't know how many guys are working on it. Bradenton and I, that like, he's talking about something similar to what that car was. That car wouldn't register O2s below 4,500 RPMs because it wouldn't even clean up, because it was a 9,000 RPM engine, right? 9,500 RPM engine.
The way we use widebands on nitrous motors, you tune the motor using the plugs, and then whatever the widebands say, that's where it stays. I don't care what the wideband says, that we're just thinking of that number.
It's a reference point.
I mean, we're probably making similar power per cubic inch as you are on this one, but because this is like a 408-inch motor or whatever. But the thing was we spent some time making sure we were getting the right temps, because, dude, we actually had these O2 sensors right at the exhaust port on this Ultra Street car. And it was a plate setup, which made distribution a big concern. So we were running closed loop per cylinder, and it's tough to get right, but it worked really good. And dude, he had 8 Bosch LSU 4.9. The non-long lasting sensors ended up loving that setup and lasted for the 2 years I worked on the car.
What kills them is moisture. So if you put them in a nice hot area, they
yeah,
last.
God, I couldn't believe it. They
I
totally
started
lasted.
using them because they were putting them basically right off the header, almost right before the cat. So like at Honda, we had the headifold, the head manifold, turbo, O2 sensor, cat, all within a foot.
That motor was also a gas motor too, which helps a lot with that stuff, Scott. I don't know if you think it would have been right if it was on methanol.
I mean, I don't know anybody spraying methanol in Ultra Street, so no, I didn't.
I'm just using that as an example. That
No, so on methanol,
it wouldn't have lasted on methanol just because the amount of fuel you're running. As soon as it gets anything on it, it's gonna.
the one place that I will try to read plugs is on methanol, but I'll tell you what, you look at the true experts there and all they're looking at is cadmium burn. They want to shoot for 3/4 of the way around per pass. Well, hell, heat range can change that. Leaning it out can change that.
Timing
know,
can change that, obviously.
Well, oh yeah, timing will change it too, right? Clearly. So I mean, I don't know. My whole thing is you certainly can't be a guy who's going to be an EFI tuner and who's going to travel all over the damn place and tune at all these different shops and all these different engines. You know, I went in one season from a supercharged straight 8 Buick to a Cosworth DFV, you know, Buick on ethanol, DFV on methanol. Oh, and we also did the DFV on Q16 with a turbo. And then you go to Ray Barton's and do a super stock altered Hemi. You got to figure something out there with combustion pressure for the week. You don't go in there and like, oh, here, just let's pull a plug and I'll show you I'm a plug reader. I'm
not saying only read plugs.
No, I'm just saying that's how you get your shit booted. You won't be an employed tuner.
I'm just saying there's very good data that can be taken from a spark plug. You know what I mean? There's also bad. Person doesn't know what the hell they're looking at.
No. I think you can get better data from an O2 and a some kind of power measurement device, or I mean, in that case, G meters. You might be using G meters, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, if you don't pull a plug, though, you'll never know if you have the right heat range. That's something you can't.
Okay, I'll go with you on that, Scotty. I'll go with you on that. You know, you're right about that because you can tell. Like, I'll look at how far in it's burning up. But
you can tell immediately when you pull a plug by how many different colors the top ring has changed, if it's going down the threads.
Sure.
Like you can see immediately, oh, this is too cold. This is too hot.
You know
Once
what
you
else
have the right plug range, then you can start reading that timing mark.
Dude, you know what'll change that though?
And you can tell it which way it moves.
Hang on. At the drag strip, it'll tell you that. But if you try to read it that way and then go put it for a 90-second wide open blast, now your heat's changed and you're going to find out it's going to report that you want to run.
There's a difference on reading a drag pass versus an endurance pass. There's a drastic difference, right?
With the heat
if you're reading an
range,
endurance pass, it's very, very different.
Technically, with the
90
heat
seconds
range,
worth
though,
of time is way, way different.
Yeah, but technically with the heat range, don't you want to adjust for the endurance race? I mean, I actually do make that change. I'll run the colder plugs for the longer pass to make the heat range.
Sure, on a longer pass, you absolutely want that longer one.
I just don't believe in timing and fuel on plug reads. Is where I'm at with that. I guess is where I'm going because I should
fuel,
say that.
I don't really.
Just use it for validation.
Fuel on plugs, it's validation. So wide of a range that it shows.
You know, if you got a engine that's got
13.6 and they look the same.
If you got an engine that's running like 70 lambda, big rich on gas, say just call it C16 for instance, turbo car, blower car, either one. You pull the plug out, that bitch is black. You know.
I do fucking
right.
Sorry, one of our listeners, a good buddy of ours, Keith Cromer, just sent me a VHS tape. You want me to mail you this? It's a VHS tape on reading spark plugs.
Oh, send me that. I will watch funny. I will pay for it.
Yes, Keith, I think we're going to need to make an arrangement with that and have that. They're going to force me to watch it. The Sloppy Mechanics guys are going to have one of those videos where the guys hold
like the Clockwork Orange video montage scene.
Did you see somebody Sloppy guys made one about me? It was Scott Clark being forced to watch installation of Snake Eater injectors circa 2017 colorized. It was this hilarious picture somebody made, photoshopped me in there, and a guy's like holding my eyes wide open, forcing me to watch an install of Snake Eater injectors, which was absolutely hilarious. God bless some of the Sloppy guys. They're so creative.
I'm not going to lie. I was a little disappointed in their challenge. I expected more bullshit videos.
I did too,
you know what I mean?
man.
Like, there was like 3 or 4 and it died.
There was one good one. There was one pretty funny one. The guy made it. So if you guys saw what we're talking about is we made a video, RealTuners, Real Men of Genius. And we've actually got some more queued up on these. I know I need to do more of these, but we got into this other project that we've been buried on. But we made the Real Men of Genius, look at it on YouTube, RealTuners, Real Men of Genius. We made another commercial to kind of celebrate the one I did with Rye a few years ago. And it was making fun of guys who have all Chinese parts in their car. And man, did it ruffle some feathers, dude. We got a Matt Happel, what's the David Koresh of junkyards or whatever. Matt Happel, he told us to he called what's the religious thing when he calls wants all of his followers to attack or whatever, and then of course 11 of them actually did something. But it was pretty hilarious. We got his feathers all ruffled up because we made fun of sloppy mechanics a little bit. But
Yeah, I don't know
anyway,
who did the video, but they pretty much called him out in it. It was kind of funny.
yeah. So let's see here. What else is going on? Yeah, Keith, we're gonna have to.
What
check
if they
that.
were spraying meth on Mars? Well, there's not enough atmosphere there for anything to really react. Combustion is a severe challenge on Mars. So
Right, no atmosphere.
It's like 1% oxygen there. So good luck.
Needs more nitrous. Bring your own oxygen.
How much horsepower do you figure on heat range though versus ET? I'll leave that to you guys. I don't know.
You want my most basic way of doing it? And it's just a starting point. I don't swear to this. 600 horse on 6s, 700 horse on 7s, 800 horse on 8s, and on up.
Very much depends on the head, though, because
Of course.
an LS
Like
head,
motor.
600 horse is a TR55 still, and a
basic.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making 8 on BKR 7s.
Like I said,
LS to 30 pounds of boost is still a BR70F. It's
Yeah, I was gonna try to run
Doesn't
20
quite
pounds
fit.
on TR7 or BKR 7s. So which
well, you're
I've
in the,
done before.
800 horse could be 790,
Yeah.
but you could still be in the 7s.
I don't change to an 8 on an LS until about 35 pounds of boost.
Yeah, I mean that's a good rule, but there's definitely some. The more efficient. your
Unless
head
it's
is,
like a
the-
high compression or something. Unless it's like a
Yeah.
14-to-1
Like I
LS.
said, I'm just basic. So when someone calls and says, "Where do I start?" It's always going to put them safer in a colder plug than they need.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry. So anyway, let's see. Pent roof for life. We're big fans of 7s up around 1,000. Interesting, Kenny. What else? Anybody else got stuff they want to talk about? What other things are going on in
Hey,
motorsports?
are we going to talk about Autobrock ditching California or something?
Oh yeah.
About that?
Bye.
There was some interesting observations there. So I think everybody's probably heard about Edelbrock. They've been owned for a better part of a decade by a capital investment group. Bill's not able to talk because he had a dog emergency he had to break off, but he's the one that knows the most about trying to do business in California because he's a counselor there. But apparently they've decided to, I know from talking to people that are worked there and assigned to the project that they're it's consolidation. Number one. Number two, it's also getting out of California because it's impossible to do business there, especially when you have a foundry, you're doing chemical things and molten things. And I'm sure that CARB on top of the EPA.
Casting their own intakes.
Yeah.
I'm amazed they've been there as long as they have. I couldn't believe that they were still doing that in California.
I didn't know they had 2 foundries out there either.
It's got to be getting ridiculously expensive to operate out there in any kind of automotive related thing or industrial related thing other than like pure electric.
Well, you got to think they probably had some grandfathered in, deals that, kept them out of some of that too, I would think.
You would hope. But I know that it's a struggle for them, honestly, just like anybody else. And this economy isn't helping. But it's a little bit of a merger, but they're not talking about that. It's not shutting down or closing their doors. Which there was some automotive
with
media
like
people.
Comp TCI, right?
Yes.
With
yeah.
CPG.
I think is that who it is?
So,
Comp.
and
Because David
yeah,
Page
it's
is
with-
working on that project.
And all the comp stuff is basically Mississippi and Memphis. Like it's all right there within an hour of Memphis, basically. So they're all just moving. Olive Branch isn't that much further out. So it's all right there now. They're trying to make it one giant facility from what I was reading. And that would, it makes sense for business. Put all your brands in one roof. It makes it easier to operate.
Well, yeah. And then you also, let's be honest, they're going to consolidate some stuff because there's duplication of efforts there.
Right.
So I saw that, David Page has moved over to that group, which is cool. That's the guy from Fast. If you ever needed fast top end technical support for XFI, he was your guy. I don't, I know there's some consolidation. What I thought was interesting was the automotive media jumping on each other's shit. Did you guys see some of that? So the first guy's jumping on the gun to report it. Edelbrock's closing down, and it was like, all right, fucking liberal media guy. That's not really what's going on. And then some other media guys, oh, you guys are assholes. They're not closing down. They're just moving out of California. And then one of them finally said, oh, they're consolidating and moving out of California, because that's what they do when you're bought by capital groups, which kind of sucks. I'll just say that. But hey, at least if it's keeping them alive.
Does moving out of California really suck?
No, that part doesn't suck. Well, actually, it does suck. If you live there, other than the fact that it's impossible to afford, it's not the most horrible place, certain places to live. I mean, you don't want to live in like the desert, but it's just super expensive. I prefer to live in my little old Ozarks down here.
And from what I saw, they offered all their employees the ability to keep their jobs and move with them. Like, it wasn't like, see you later, bye. It was,
no, they're treating people
we are
good, is my
doing this, but if you want to go, feel free to move with us and your job still exists.
PJ NATO says, come on, it makes sense to combine the
Move
headquarters.
from California to there. You know what I mean? Like, California's paradise.
People who are fed up with California?
Yeah, but I mean, so like Honda moved their main design from California to Torrance. Tesla, SpaceX, it's not just the automotive industry, it's industry in general. And a lot of them are doing to Texas or a couple other areas in that region.
Yeah, cost of doing business in California is insane. Getting a lot of feedback from the guys on the link.
The problem with all those people moving out, they're turning all these other blue states red, or red states blue, rather.
Red states blue, right. Texas is getting kind of pissed off now, right? All the Texans are like, hey, wait a minute. All these people want to get rid of our guns.
Free meth for the whole country. What the hell?
Oh, God. Mark Thompson. Weather was beautiful today, but my electric bill is still $1,500 a month. Holy shit. Oh, my God. My electric bill here, I'm all electric in this house, and the electric bill is like $150 a month. Sucky. Good luck with skilled labor in Mississippi. Ask Winchester about that problem. Oh, Jerry. Let's see what else. Other questions? Anyone? Why did it get so quiet all of a sudden? Oh, Perdito's back. There we go. He left. That's why I got quiet.
My wife got home from work. I had to go say hi.
Same here. She just got home. I got to go say hi in a minute. Dun, dun, dun. I have to show off. I'm not quite ready to show off this thing yet, but I got a whole bunch of little parts here and cool stuff that we've done. Stuff like, you see my homemade PCB. Oh, it won't focus on that. I have to hold it back here. Yeah. Homemade circuit boards I just got from the assembly. Pretty cool for a little project we're working on. First, it's the second time I've ever made my own PCB, but I actually got some help on this one.
Focus, camera focus.
It's not autofocus. All right, hold on. I'll make it focus. Yeah. Doing this. Watch.
That's funny.
I have a DSLR, so it doesn't want to focus. It doesn't autofocus, but
yeah.
Check that out. See a little Atmega 325 on there. See what's going on. It's pretty cool. And this one's got some custom shit on it because, dude, electronic parts are hard to come by right now. Can I get macro?
Holy focus.
I'm coming right there, maybe. Okay, is everybody happy about my focus now?
I swear.
Now everything's great. Look at me, dude.
I'm coming. It's gonna be a little awkward, I think.
I'm gonna. Okay, so
real quick, Pro Stock John, I'm gonna ignore your comment because I'm pretending like that's not happening. So I'm giving them positive vibes that they won't be
I forgot
by 2035.
What did he say?
Yeah, GM's trying to get electric vehicle by 2035.
Vehicles, but we'll see.
So I don't think you're going to see big over-the-road trucks going to electrical anytime soon, based on just common sense about energy density.
But yeah,
Amazon is already trying. They've already committed to being all their over-the-road trucks, every truck in their fleet to be electric by like 2025 or 2030 or something.
Can I say fuck Amazon? Because if you want to put your money where your mouth is, you wouldn't have take a look at all the forklifts. Brad told me this the other day. If you want to see if Amazon's full of shit or not, go look at all their facilities. Go look at all their forklifts. Do they run electric forklifts?
Right. They all have propane
engine
forklifts right now.
Yeah, they run propane forklifts on piston
we have an
engines.
electric
Why?
and a propane in our shop. Guess which one we use?
Yeah, because the electric got to charge all the fucking time. That's the thing.
Yeah,
that sucks
it's
about
broken
electric
all
cars.
the time as well. But
And it's broken.
Hey,
Yeah.
so that $1,500 electric bill out in California, what's that going to be when you're having to charge your freaking car up every night?
Oh,
Right?
God.
Those solar panels don't work at night either.
Do you guys follow Jeff Schwartz? He's a car builder here in the Midwest. He's kind of a famous car builder, also a ex-motorcycle racing guy. He got elected to some position in his county in Illinois, or appointed. And his first study was for electric vehicles. Let's get to the bottom of this. Okay, the first big red light is that almost no place in the country can the infrastructure handle even a 10% increase in electrical demands.
Correct.
I totally believe that.
And he's a nice guy, and I don't even think he's politically, I've never seen him go left or right. He's real centered, real level-headed guy, and just right down the middle politically.
Generally, we want to talk this, but how do we actually do this in a way that doesn't hurt the technology? Because like I've been there before. I've worked in technologies that were, had some like a lot of political push behind them, but were energy conservation. There were other reasons to do it, but we pushed products to market for political reasons, and it killed.
It's super simple.
That product.
You're going to have a row of like 40 plug-in sockets ready to go with a 200 kVA generator hanging out there running diesel to power
Doesn't
everything.
it still need 8 hours? Doesn't you need like 7 hours on a supercharger on like a 220
but that's what
circuit?
I'm talking about. Like the big ones that we use out on a concert somewhere, out on a festival. That's what's going to be sitting behind a big giant row of electric vehicle charger stations.
Yeah,
I've got to double check because we were looking at it. With some of the new announcements that have come, we talked about this a little bit. EPA clarifying its stance. I've never been against building an EV. There's reasons to do it, but it needs to be done right. And just because you could build a fast one doesn't mean that it's the perfect fix for everything right away. But charging has come a long way, because that's one of the problems with running them at time attack. But between time attack sessions, we can get the batteries to 100% depending on what kind of stacked runs we're doing. You're not going to do it by just plugging into a normal plug. You're going to need a supercharger or something, but
so
you can run it off a 220 generator or something like that. So
well, thankfully, some of the heads of the major companies are starting to speak out how energy or how bad this stuff is for the environment. The head of Toyota has talked about, hey, it's not quite as environmentally friendly as you think. Bosch has been speaking out about it. So a lot of companies are starting to like spill the beans a little bit on it. You know what I mean?
There's good technology here, but let's use it the right way. That's actual properly engineered of the best overall solution, rather than pushing something because it looks nice on one end.
Yeah, we're not ready for it. It's great. The technology's getting there, but we're still not there. So to force it before it's ready isn't any good,
Yeah, like, to be honest, we were talking about doing that and going time attack, and we went 100%. We're like, yeah, we need a generator to charge our electric car, and like we both look at each other and start laughing, but we're like, we just want to run a fast electric car just to do it.
So Steve's YouTube says cars charge off peak. That can't mean off peak time, because the car's going to charge when you get home, which would be peak time when everyone's cooking dinner and all that nonsense. I don't understand what you mean by cars charge off peak. And then
I think he's trying to say people are going to charge their car in the middle of the night when there's not a whole lot going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
I guess
plug it in when you get home.
That,
You're going to get home from work at 6 o'clock, 6:30, everything work too.
The step back here is, why is our energy infrastructure so bad? And it didn't. That's really forget why our energy infrastructure is bad. We haven't built a new nuclear plant since, was it 1978, 79?
Well, that's also all the environmental people saying this isn't good and this and that. Nuclear is the answer for all of this stuff. That's how you fix this problem. You know what I mean? Like have you seen pictures of the graveyards from the windmills of the of the arms? Those don't biodegrade. They're just taking so much space.
So the big problem is that we haven't figured out proper fission and fusion. We can take one or two atoms and explode it, but we don't know how to control it. And that's the big problem. If we could move to fission and fusion, we could actually solve most of the energy problems because of the massive amount of energy it releases if we could harness it. The problem then becomes manufacturing the way to do that is extremely costly on top of it. So it's not really an achievable thing to do at this point in our structure. Like down the road, maybe 50 years, 100 years, whatever it might be, we might get to that point. But right now, we're not there. And where we're at now, the problem is that we're pawning off. Our problem is we're pawning off the clean energy to the people who want to say it's all clean, but not giving them the full picture. I think Silas just mentioned in there, hey, the problem isn't that we don't, like when you go to manufacture all these batteries, it's far more toxic than what the combustion engine does. So you're looking at one lithium battery in one car and one Prius costs you more pollution than I think it was 7.5 years of one combustion engine.
And then you still have to get rid of the batteries at the end of life.
And you still have to dispose of them.
Exactly. So we just aren't there yet. Not on a large scale. It's just not there.
Right. And a lot of them have kind of changed and pivoted. Like Volvo has just said none of our cars will be 100% gasoline, but they're pivoting more to a hybrid.
You know what I see that as? That's like in the 80s when they put air pumps on everything just so they could pass emissions. It's just a Band-Aid to make the politicians happy. You know, that's all that is.
There's some ups and downs, you know, like there's a reason a lot of the hypercars are going hybrid. It's not because it's environmentally friendly. It's because it's a way to get the power and the power management that they need to make those cars do what they do, torque vectoring, all that stuff.
And it's the hot thing. That's a huge part.
I mean, there's definitely a part to it there, but you know, there are some fast cars that are fast because of the hybrid.
I mean, electric cars are great. They're awesome. They're fast. The torque's there. They're absolutely amazing. There's no doubt about that. It's just for everybody to have one, we're just not ready for that.
Someone's saying South Korea just sustained fusion for 20 seconds. That shit's so far over my head, bro. I'm going to sit here and act totally dumb because I have no idea what you're talking about.
If I had a drink, I'd take one right now.
Yeah. Fission is easier than fusion. Man, you guys are way over my head. EV sales are very big.
Yeah, so you want me to get back to cars instead of
yeah, like you guys are like you're operating on
physics.
a level right now. Like I can't even pronounce the words you're using. I'm just gonna sit here and be dumb.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to see a lot of pivoting over the next 5 years for sure, and you know, 10 and 20-year plans that are going to get interesting.
Brian, I need a little plug for my throttle body, for the TPS wire, for that thing we were talking about to clean the valves. I need you to make me one of those. Just go with TPS.
Okay.
All I've remembered. Sorry, I remember right now. Get us off the topic of fusion.
I ordered a bunch of Ford Fusion parts today. Dude, that's been like... So, I actually have a little bit of a bitch about Ford. They use the same plug on all their crank and cam sensors, which apparently, as I learned today, have 3 different pinouts.
But it's the same plug.
Yep. So, like, it's this whole... It started as this cater room that we take care of for a good friend of the shop owners. And it used to be at Classic Car Club in New York. For any of you guys that are familiar, it was basically a bunch of rich people. They have a bunch of cars there. You remember, you get to drive all of them. Well, they blew the cater room up like 4 times. These same guys snapped the supercharger off of an Atom 3 times by misshifting, and it would literally snap the snout off. So the fix was we made the Atom naturally aspirated.
I like it.
Whatever. But so... It got to the point where the old Ford Mazda engine they were using in the cater room just isn't available anymore. So we went to buy an engine, and this engine shows up, a really nice Mountune engine. And I'm like, this is a new Mazda MZR engine, but it has like Ford Duratec stuff on. I have no idea what engine this is. So, and then we go to put it in the car, and it's this bespoke British ECU. They're like, "Hey, we have to use Hall sensors on this because I can't make a VR work." Like, oh no, that's a hardware change in the ECU. I'm like, what the hell do you mean you can't just put a Hall on this car? So we threw that ECU in the garbage, and we're putting an M-tron on it. But it just was this huge snowball. Just put this new engine in, and then fighting with the car to finally sit down and go through. It was like, oh, there's 3 pinouts. Let me try one until I get RPM signal. And that was a Ford Fusion crank trigger is what we're using. So
That sucks.
yeah, that was real fun.
I mean, it's a Ford. Are you really that? Never mind. I'll be
No,
quiet.
no, I'm not.
Before you, I mean, we can't say anything better about Nissan when they had the crank sensor or the cam sensor to cam sensor to crank sensor. When you got a cam sensor code, you just changed all 3 sensors because they all were in series with each other. You didn't know which one was doing what.
Did they come in on a single wire?
Yeah, they literally went through all 3.
Yeah, so and it looked for a pattern. So if any one of them, you didn't know which one was fucked up unless you had like an oscilloscope, and actually you may not even know then. Yeah, I've run into that before. That was an early. Who else did that? Ferrari F40 engine had a weird cam and crank setup like that we had to get rid of for the one that we built way back when. That was 2006. So let's see what else is shaking.
We started a bunch of arguments about nuclear power versus everything else.
Saw that. A
I don't
Silas
know what happens.
Giesener. I'm with him on that. It's but
That's a very
Jason isn't here
complex
to
problem.
talk about
There's
it,
a lot
but
of stuff that needs to happen, but
There's
I'm a
some-
big
some-
fan of nuclear power. It's not. There's definitely some issues. but
there's
it's not
some new
nearly as bad as
breakthroughs with
people
the
need to
nuclear
be,
power
yeah.
and the heavy water thing, the fission versus fusion. Have
That's
anybody heard about
that's
that?
what
Jason
Evans was
showed
going
me an
on about.
article the other day, and then something else about the quantum.
It's like anything else. It's the same thing for tuning. There is no like it's a system. You can't just throw all the timing at it or all the fuel at it or run it wide open throttle all the time. Like you have to fix the system as a whole, and our infrastructure is so bad that
Yeah,
there's a lot of
infrastructure's
things that
running
need
at
to
wide
happen.
open throttle right now.
Right, yeah.
So there's about 10 kPa of load left, and it's done.
We're well past our sensor limits. Yeah, 40 pounds of boost on a 2-bar sensor.
Ooh, hey, Danny Davis, I just saw checking in here. Man, sorry if I was late, but we got to get Danny on here to talk about his 275 Madness event. They're going to do it at Mid-America Dragway again this year. You can check out the 275 Madness event page, but that's an event that's always any of Danny Davis's events. He's been on here at least, I think, 2 other times before, but we'll talk to him again. His pretty kick-ass radio promoter, does just some Midwest stuff, but always puts on killer events. And God, we had some, I get not this last year, but the year before, his fall event was just a good time because it was a super good track prep at a track that you don't normally expect it to be as awesome as it was. And it the weather got really bad really quick. It got super huge, like a 40-degree temperature change, and the wind picked up and became a challenge for everybody. And it was just a lot of fun. It was fun for tuners. I enjoy his events. But anyway, we'll get Danny on here in the next couple weeks to talk about it. Low dollar sensors, are they worth the money? Yes, we like Brandon at Low Dollar. In fact, we're waiting on him to finish some changes to his shop, and then he's going to get on the show here. I've been talking to him. He's waiting to get on. We
Yeah,
like
some
Low
cool
Dollar.
new stuff coming out. Me and him were just talking about the other day too.
Yep.
Going to save people some money.
Yeah, he tests the stuff that he gets, which is cool. And he doesn't let on Facebook, but he actually has an engineering background in sensors and industrial type stuff. And so he can speak very intelligently to the stuff that he's selling, and he knows what to avoid and what works that's low cost. What else? Now we're talking about mining on other planets on the YouTube chat. Sorry, I'm reading some of these messages.
Yeah, I'm trying to go through this chat and then
Who's got questions? We got questions about tuning stuff, or we answered all those? Are we getting long in the tooth? We got to come up with some new ideas. Either got to have new guests, or we got to come up with new formats, or something fun. Let me know, man. We've been doing this. This will be 4 years in a couple of months, so it feels like we've had everybody on here. That's the ones you want to have, in my opinion. But maybe we start round robins and do them again. I'd like to have some of our more popular guys back on. See if we get Big Chief back on here. Jeff Stacy's always a good one. Lake Speed. God, of course, he's gone on to produce a whole bunch of cool stuff. We got to get Rye to come back in and visit Rye Klemp. He's doing his own media stuff now. That guy's a media mogul. But
How about a refresher course for those of us that went through James's GM class and had half of it ooze out of our ears? Half, bro. That
Good
class
luck.
taught me one thing.
Good
I just
luck.
sent stock ECM stuff to James. He emails me a file and I put it in
And
the
here's
car.
the deal, man. James and Rick, the guys we had teaching our factory ECU classes when we were testing those, are the best teachers at it. Maybe Tony Gagnon is up there. You know, he's up there as being a great teacher, but it's super hard to have a class and then have people go home and they're still going to struggle with the factory computers because you can't cover all that material. You know, what I like about the standalone classes, the ones I teach myself, is like immediately after the class is over, I'll be traveling home on Monday morning and I'll just be dead and beat to shit. And people don't realize that how much it drains you physically and mentally to prepare for, then put on a class with all the stress of all the shit can go wrong and the possible showstoppers or the food not showing up. And then you're going home on Monday and you're like, is it worth doing? And the Facebook feed pops up with, oh, I went home and got my car running. You know, you guys like Jimmy and Tammy Tate, remember them going home from the Texas class? Like before I even got home, they're like, dude, we got this thing to run ourselves. Check it out. So that's cool. Hard to do with a factory ECU class. Very hard to do.
New stuff, especially the Gen 5 stuff, and oh man, it takes so much time to do that right, and just the time to set up a scanner when you haven't done it yet. Like I don't know, James, how long does it take you to set up your scanner config the first time you did a Gen 5 or something like that? I'd be curious to know because I feel like an idiot every time I do it on a new computer. I'm like, God damn it, it's gonna take forever.
Well, honestly, a lot of that transferred over from Gen 4, so I just kind of expanded on that. But yeah, there's a lot of torque tables and stuff I had to come up with and, you know, build and whatnot. But it wasn't too bad.
With software like HP Tuners doing that stuff, a lot of those tables will auto-populate if you just select the type of table that you want, right? If I'm remembering right, they added that in where you can set up a histogram based on the...
It used to.
You just have to define all your parameters, so you have to know which parameters you're putting in there.
Yeah, it used to on the old 224, it would, if you like put a Gen 3 VE table, it would auto-populate based on pulling the data from the ECU, but it doesn't do that anymore on the new scanner. You have to define all the axes and parameters and breakpoints and all that stuff.
Interesting feedback. Kenny Howard liked both those classes. I just saw that he put that up on YouTube. But it's funny because Kenny is kind of reminds me of Brian and James, as they both have this really broad experience with both the factory and the standalone ECUs and the factory ones that are kind of in between, like the earlier Hondas, right? So it's interesting. So when a guy like Kenny goes to that class and he said he got something out of it. But I felt like the guys that were newer to factory ECU tuning, even if they had a background in standalones, that, man, I tell people start off with an easy standalone first, you know, just if you find yourself struggling.
I honestly think it's easier. There's a mix though, so there's a lot of we might ruffle some feathers. There's a lot of factory ECU tuners that can't go to a standalone because they just learned how to set up a scanner and modify a histogram, not to actually tune an engine. These are maybe they know their fuels, they know how to make that factory work, but when it comes to defining what a crank sensor is and stuff like that, and from scratch.
If you watch James do both, I've had the pleasure of seeing James tune. Hang on, I've had the pleasure of seeing James tune both from scratch, right? And it's funny shit to watch because Brian's describing there is a different approach. You're nudging around a factory tune that's a lot more complex and also a lot more accurate at fuel delivery, right? For emissions reasons. That's focus.
When
that's wild.
You haven't touched anything the engineers designed.
Yes. Yeah.
We love to fuck that stuff up.
Yeah. Right. No, but my point is there's two different approaches. You know, when I'm with a standalone, I'm like, all right, how much fuel is this engine going to want to run? I'm going to kind of guess at the base idle pulse width and test that's where it's going to land up when it lights off. You know, but it's not like that on the factory ECU. It's airflow and torque management tables, and it's getting the thing to be happy with itself. But it's funny watching a guy who's good at both. It's two completely different approaches. When James sits down to fill out a bunch of Holley screens or Haltech screens, it's totally different thinking than when he's getting ready to tune the GM car. In fact,
Yeah,
the
I'll be
GM car
honest,
was
like
90% setup, but as soon as you start it the first time, it ran perfect. Everyone he tuned for the classes, it was like, oh, we're going to start this at the end of day 2, but we're going to spend 2 entire days.
Yeah. That's what I was kind of getting at. Like, and that's the problem is when like I think when I do a standalone, there's times I feel like it was like, how do you get the numbers? Like, I don't know. These are what they are. Just fire them in there. If they're wrong, you'll change them. And in a stock ECU, if you're not right, like you're gonna fight that. So you better get your setup right and get your logging right. And then the torque table mapping especially is what kills a lot of the guys.
Perduto, could you imagine trying to figure out a problem with your torque requests with your customers with an 1800 horsepower nitrous car at the middle of a race?
No.
I mean, yeah, no. There's no
I
tolerance
refuse.
for
How's
that.
sound? I'll put carburetors back on them all.
Or trying to make a pull on a pro stock engine and having to make 19 pulls to get rid of that lean spot in the middle.
No.
I mean, there's reasons why we have standalones, but I respect
Scott
the
will.
Go ahead.
There's a reason why James and I run standalones on our R1000 plus. Well, James makes 3 times the horsepower I make, but
Scott will attest to my little motto: the less you lie to it, the better off you are on the stock.
Right on.
Stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's neat to see the car just start and run perfect and put it on the dyno and just close the laptop and watch it make perfect pulls. It's like, okay, he understands all that shit, but oh my God, virtual VE and all the iterations and stuff.
Oh, I remember when virtual VE came out and guys were complaining. Virtual VE is nothing compared to the Gen 5 stuff and all the new
Yeah,
wait till you start having to build 5D tables for things.
Yeah, virtual torque is a bitch sometimes.
Let me tell you something. So I own a direct injected truck. I thought I could tune this thing myself. I opened the file. I said, screw this. Called James. James sent me my file back. I did the compare to look and see everything he changed. Realized I have absolutely no idea what I'm looking at. Loaded my truck.
Right. Is this right? Wow. Thanks.
Yeah,
Jesus,
dude.
you've been typing for 3 days.
There's tables there. Like, why did he even modify that? I don't know. I don't care. I don't care. Put it in. It works.
Yeah, there's a guy that brought a 2021 Dodge Ram Rebel in, and he's like, yeah, so how much to do like this whole supercharger setup? I was like, dude, just all that. Like, we quoted him like 15 grand. He's like, cool, when can we do it? I was like, dude, I'm not tuning this. Like, we don't have time in the shop. And there's all kinds of other stuff that's happened since then. That means I have less time. But I'm like, man, look, until ProCharger releases a kit for this, I'm sorry. Can we do it? Yeah. Am I going to? No. I'm not putting the time in for this. You're not going to pay for the time it would take me to do this. So it's not a platform I tune. I'll talk to some guys, but at this point, no one's tuning a 2021.
Ulrich Tap.
Yep.
Caleb Dunstan, I haven't perfected the 85 tune yet. Let's see, missed some of the discussion, but I have a question on MS3 Pro. I'm thinking of swapping over to M1 from 85, changing the Spartan wideband to Ballinger. What is the easiest method to rescale the fuel map? The easiest method is to change your stoic value in the required fuel calculator. Just do it that way. Then that'll get you close, but you're still going to have to do a lot of work on the table. And then with just changing stoic AFR work, you want to change it in the required fuel calculator. But if you have linked after that, if you have clicked the option, there's an option in the settings that links AFR to the fuel model. In that case, if you change the AFR, then the change will build into the VE automatically. Yes. Just want to make sure I got him answered. Hell, PJ wants to know more about CAN. Hey, we got time. Do you see this one? PJ NATO, he's our Drag Week, Rocky Mountain Race Week buddy. I'd like to know more about CAN bus. Who makes the stuff and where it can be utilized? Well, controller area network, CAN, okay, is what that is. Think of it as an Ethernet cable that a bunch of devices on the car talk on. Sometimes there's more than one network in the car, but I think, PJ, where you probably care about it is aftermarket ECUs like Holley. What's the Holley doing on CAN bus?
The biggest thing here is to note that it's not even like that. It's like having you and all of your neighbors, you all have internet. Now try to connect to your neighbor's computer.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
that's a good way
CAN
of
is
looking at it.
not necessarily a protocol. Yeah, it's similar, but it's all different, and you need to know what that other network's talking on. So you can't take a Haltech CAN bus wideband and just throw it onto an AEM ECU
Yep.
and vice versa. In
You
some
can
cases you can
physically
but
hook devices
that
up,
needs
but
to happen.
they don't all talk to each other. So that's the thing, all the different devices. But that being said, you can do some neat shit. Go ahead.
I think the thing to explain to people would simply be to think of it as the physical connection, not the language it's talking.
Sure.
Just like talking from here to Japan, you have to speak the same language as the other device on the same channel, on the same frequency, on the same everything for it to work. You can often take many devices into other things.
It's a common
But
conveyor
you have
belt,
to know
but you
the
can't.
channel.
You can't necessarily use
Yeah.
everyone else's product on the conveyor belt, but you can dump everything on the conveyor belt together. No, it's I think
Some are 29-bit, some are 11-bit.
If I was getting started, what I would do is I would do some research on probably the CAN bus and common OBD cars that you drive every day in trucks, and I'd probably get myself a simple CAN enabled and also OBD. The OBD is not necessarily CAN, by the way, but usually the CAN bus
is going to be CAN.
Usually a primary CAN bus is exposed in the connector to an OBD connector, but you can research this CAN bus. Go to YouTube and search for hacking car CAN bus. There's just right off the bat, you'll get 5 things right off the top that are all worth watching.
I never recommend someone that's never touched CAN just Googling CAN bus, because you're going to get all the developer machine logic side of stuff, which is going to go straight into, all right, this is big Indian 16-bit. None of that matters if you don't understand any CAN. But what you're saying is, yeah, like OEM, so basically 08 and up typically is going to be CAN. If your car has pins 6 and 14 on the OBD port, that's your CAN high and CAN low. It's going to be CAN bus. But because CAN bus for emissions data, at least for some of the stuff, is standardized, so all that data is out there for what IDs they are. So every car has certain parameters that have the same ID. So if you can go, Arduino and all those guys actually have documents that have those CAN IDs in them, because they all make CAN interface tools to make your own OBD adapter and stuff like that, to reverse engineer this. And that's a great place to start, because it gets you used to, okay, this is the CAN ID, this is the breakdown of, hey, we have 8 bits, these 2 bits are mapped, these 2 bits are that, and getting used to thinking in that way, and at least being aware of what binary, hexadecimal, and decimal, and what the difference is, and just Googling a calculator when you go in to do that, and figuring out why.
I don't want to scare people away by telling them they're going to have to know that. I think your first experience.
They don't need to know it. They need to Google it and plug the number into a calculator.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying. I think their first experience should be go get like a CAN dash and make it talk with a known working system, like you had us do with that AEM dash, that CDL dash. Evans, are you liking yours still, man? I absolutely am in love with that AEM dash that they put in Dan Parker's car.
I love that thing. It is
God damn,
phenomenal.
that's a nice dash. And Brian did all the work and set it up for me.
You can do so many cool things with it.
Fuck. We added a wideband. It was not
hard to set up at all.
We added wideband data to the factory data.
And that's what makes it so nice.
Yeah,
like
so we were able to, we really use this AEM dash. Okay, so Dan Parker has his Corvette, and it has a factory computer in it because James could make the transmission work and tune it with a big ass nasty cam and all this stuff, and it runs great. But we didn't have a great way to data log it, so Barnhill directed us on that. He's like, hey, get the CDL7 dash. Okay, cool. And then add a wideband to it. Well, now we can combine the wideband data with the factory ECU data, and we get a pretty granular data log, and you can view it. You can export it and view it in whatever you want, or the AEM log viewer is perfectly good. Man, was in the display quality is super badass on this thing. The config would have smoked me for the first timer, but I mean, I picked up the phone and I called Brian, and he team viewered in while we were out there on the fucking New Mexico desert. We had cell service at Spaceport USA or Spaceport America, or whatever they call that place. And he was able to get it set up and had a template file and then modified it to use the wideband. But otherwise, that whole thing was just a pleasant experience, and it was neat taking data over the CAN bus only. So this whole wiring job, PJ, on this dash was power and grounds, and then CAN bus, and then what did we do? We plugged the wideband into the CAN bus as well, didn't we? We used an AEM.
Yeah, we brought it over via CAN bus.
Yes,
to make
so we had a
faster.
second CAN bus interface, I think, for that. But otherwise, very simple wiring. and we got like 100 parameters worth of data to log on the car for the past to use for overlays and stuff like that. It's pretty funny though. I didn't get to use our recordings because when drawing a blank, dude that did the TV show, famous car guy, why am I forgetting his name? Comedian Jay Leno. When Jay Leno's crew came out there,
I figured how long I was going to let you go on that.
They made us take the video equipment out of the car and the audio equipment, right? But then they had us put the audio equipment back once they realized that with Evans's guidance, I had set up a really high quality recorder that actually recorded the intercom between the driver and the passenger nice and clear, as well as it recorded the messages from the system that would tell him to steer left or right. You had it all mixed in nice. It was pretty funny. And they did end up using our audio system, the RealTuners setup, if you will, for the TV show. But we didn't get the video, and we had to sign stuff that said we weren't going to publish and do any video overlays or something. However, he's going to be at the Arkansas Mile. Dan got I don't know if you've been following Dan Parker, but he got his sponsorship for this year. We're going racing again here in April. I think it's going to be he's going to do the second event at East Coast Timing Association at Arkansas Mile. But that event should be pretty badass. And we're ready with drone footage and 4 different camera angles. Jason's got it all set up for Dan's car. So we'll have some kick-ass video and data from that session. Should be pretty cool.
Yeah, my dash is literally just secondary data for me. Like I have the analog tack and the analog speedo because I prefer real needles on things. But like crankcase vacuum, and if I want to double check, like make sure sensors are all working properly. Like I use it so I can look at that whenever I'm sitting in the car and I don't have to break out a laptop. That's the whole reason I have it. One page literally has all my sensor data.
Wait, you brought up a really good point I wanted to expand on a little bit, is that so Evans's car has dials, which this is my favorite thing I can't stand the goddamn LCD dashes or whatever, LED, whatever they are. The resistive touchscreen things, I hate those in race cars. It looks like you're standing at a cash register to me or something. I like dials. Well, are your gauges CAN gauges, Evans?
No, mine are physical analog gauges. Hang on, I'm working on trying to pull this up and see if I can share this.
But Holly has,
I can't,
and Dakota Digital
share
has,
according to your rules.
There are companies out there that make gauges you just plug into the CAN bus for their signals.
Yeah, we've got a charger here they look like classic old school 69 charger gauges. It's a charger with a Hellcrate engine in it.
Yes.
It's all run via CAN bus.
That's exactly what they did in Andy Leach's car, that 71 CUDA that they built. It's such a badass car. They did they had Classic made them their own gauge faces at great cost, obviously, like $7,000 or something, but with CAN-driven, servo-driven needles that light up real nice. Oh, man.
You have screen sharing disabled, so I can't share the picture.
I don't. It's by default, man. I got to turn that shit on.
I will say TFTs have come a long way, but I hate the default where it just comes up with a bunch of numbers. Like I almost always wind up doing a simulated needle gauge, even on a TFT, for at least a handful of my gauges.
I don't know how to let you share without stopping the meeting, Scott. I'm sorry, man. I got 2 things.
Yeah, let me try to figure out if I can make it happen on my.
So no, you know what happened, Scott, is all the shit you and me went through and fixed on Ring Central 3 years ago, which is all the same stuff.
You had to redo.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is just like Ring Central, except all the custom shit that you actually fixed.
You know what? People can see it on my race car page. I mean, if they search for the Quacking Racing, they'll find my car and they can look on there and see the pictures of it.
Oh, here we go. Hold on. Enable waiting room, play sound, allow participants to rename, allow participants. No, I cannot change it on the fly on the Zoom, Kenny, from where I can find it here.
Yeah, that's one of those that you have to change before the meeting. There's lots of things you can change, but I think that's one that you have to change
and
before.
Kenny's my IT go-to guy, man. I'm gonna try here.
Let's see if I can
You
just
can
add
have a
this.
screen with needle gauges for your important stuff and another screen that has many more parameters just all together. Silas, I agree entirely. Actually, some of the coolest things I've seen is what he's talking about. One with 2 really nice analog gauges on it and a couple other indicators, and then the rest just listed the data or charts.
Yeah, my last
Yep,
page.
I have
on
like
my
3
dash is
analog
always a
gauges.
diagnostics page. It
Yes.
just pulls up
yes.
all
I agree
my
with Silas.
special data. I even have like
It's under
usually
sharing.
on any car I set up, it usually has a specific tuning screen. Even the drift car a lot of times had a logging page. When my driver's like, I was like, "Hey, can you see all this?" He's like, "I don't fucking look at the dash when I drive." It's like if it shuts off, that's when I stop. I'm like, "Well, cool. I'm gonna put whatever I want on it to log then."
Oh, here we go. Okay, so all participants. I had to turn on all participants. Okay, Kenny Howard was right. Fuck you, Kenny. Okay, now you should be able
Kenny
to share.
Howard?
Let's try it. Kenny
So-
Howard. He's my
Let's
Linux
see. I
buddy
need
badass.
to do this. I think is the one that
There
I
you go.
share. Right there, you should see. So this is in my car. You can see analog, and I'll go through a couple pictures here, right? So you can see the
Yes.
different gauges with lights, right? So, like the screen you see there is I have crankcase, fuel pressure, trans temperature, right? Some other gauges that I would like to have physical gauges, but I don't need a physical gauge for those. They don't need to be. And then a few other little key things just to glance at. I have as well. Let me get to the other pages to
Is
show
that a
you.
CDL7 dash?
See, so the L is the logging version. This is
Oh, it's a
non-logging.
CD7.
Just
Got it.
CD7.
Nice.
Yep.
God damn, that thing is so
but that's
well.
like my main screen that I have.
That's
When
that
I'm
bright
sitting
light.
in the pits, this is,
Yeah. Sorry.
And then I
bright
do like
lights
this page, which
makes-
is just a quick glance at all the values. I can look and make sure some stuff's happening, and I have like this one, I can look at every single input and output to know if there's something there, if there's not, if I know there should be something and there's not, that's kind of my way to get to it.
So those things are so good in bright sunlight. Man, we had super bright sunlight out there at Spaceport, and I was blown away how good I could read that dash in Dan's car. It sucks because he can't see it. And it's funny, I put the message
And I
on
use
there.
the warning lights for various warnings, right? Because you're never going to see a needle in the middle of a pass. You're going to see a light flick on, but you're never going to see the needle necessarily. So
No,
I
have
the
20
lights
different
on the AEM
conditions
set up to
that
be
light.
warnings.
Have as many
Yeah.
different conditions as you want. Just something that goes wrong, fuel pressure goes away, oil pressure goes away.
And-
Just turn the light on, shut down.
And it's as easy as connecting with a USB and uploading a file. You can build the file to talk to the CAN bus stuff inside the software. It's a little clunky, or you can build it externally, which I like to do. Like I use Cabacer, and you can build the file for it. It takes a little bit of research and a little bit of knowledge to understand what you're doing, but once you kind of get the basics, it's pretty straightforward for almost every device that you need to program for it to read. I mean, it's very, very straightforward.
Take some practice.
think
Watch
that
some of the
for-
YouTube tutorials, and you kind of get a vibe for what you got to do.
If you're just reading the OBD2 stuff, it's like you just tell it, I want to read the OBD2 data, and it's like one click in the software and it goes. Like it's pretty
I think
straightforward.
starting
at
with
that
just
point. I
reading some
remember it.
stuff out first is real nice. That way you get used to how to manipulate the data and make it read out. I think that the suggestion of reading it to a display is a nice way to do it because it gets you used to dealing with some of the downfalls of it is every device outputs in you can't output decimal, so it's gonna output a raw number. So you need to know what unit it's talking in. And most, if you have a good CAN data sheet, it'll give you that. But like for example, Haltech spits out Pascal for pressure because you're never gonna have a decimal in Pascal. So it's easy to do. Now all the Haltech stuff automatically translates that it knows, hey, you said reading kPa or PSI, cool. But you need to know that, hey, it's always Pascal's absolute. So I need to do a conversion on it. And that's usually one of the biggest headaches in dashes, especially when you're doing cross-branded stuff. The AM's the same one. You need to know what unit came in. And they did a really good job of defining that, but it defines as standard. So I think a lot of times it comes in as metric. And I know metric, but I'm not going to glance down and say, oh, I'm at 68 degrees. I have to do math for that. So I put everything in imperial, and I know I still get yelled at by Nick from Mtron because every time like I put everything in standard units in the ECU, and he's like, what's this? I was like, I don't fucking know what kPa I should be at in this. I know PSI. So
Some
I'm
of
not going to
them-
do kPa to PSI for oil pressure.
There's an industrial standard, J1939. Is that what it is? SAE. You can find the mapping online, but there's an industrial standard that at least in certain over-the-road applications or off-road or generators and control panels for generators, or the way generators communicate with pumps or stationary engines, stuff like that. There's a more standardized version in the heavy equipment industry that some of the...
That's the problem, though. It's only really in that industry because Performance Automotive kind of went their own way.
Yeah, but for
Not
example,
really.
Holley, no, not really, because so Pro EFI follows that standard exactly, which is fucking awesome.
Some of them do.
Yeah, no,
Some of them do, but
and
not
like
all of them do.
the Holley follows it, so you'd be surprised on there. They have the race pack can and they have the Holley can. The Holley can is very much the 1394, except they don't do they're not filling the identifiers for like multiple ECUs and stuff, but
it's not a matter of that, though. It's a matter of what channels they spit the data down, right? So you're going to have a channel number 400, data bit number 1, data bit number 9, data bit number 17, right? If you're looking at 8 bits per item or something. So it's what they spit them down that is the hard part for most people. They can make them, oh, I see the CAN bus. Why don't I see any data? Well, if you're on the wrong channel, it doesn't make any difference, right? If it's spitting things down channel 33 and you're looking on channel 700, you'll never see the data. And that's part of the mystery of CAN bus that most people don't seem to grasp very well. So you have to know what it's transmitting on. You have to know the frequency it's transmitting on. Is it transmitting at 1 megabit? Is it transmitting at 500 kilobits? Is it, which speed is it transmitting at?
There's a lot to look at. I like to tell people, if you want to get to the meat and potatoes, start off with the $120 picoscope and watch the videos on how to detect CAN there, because that is a device that will let you sniff out what the rate is. If you don't know anything about the CAN bus you're getting into, start with the picoscope.
And you can look on both the high or the low side of the CAN bus and still see it. And you can see that it's canceling proper noise by looking at it as well. So you can tell if you've got a dirty CAN bus line by looking at the high and low together. You'll be able to see both and be able to tell if there's noise there by seeing the differences.
We're actually going to do CAN bus on the Streamliner. We're going to have multiple processors running, doing different things clearly on this thing. And we're actually going to use CAN messaging as a way to have simpler code across multiple cheaper, simpler processors, if you will, with the Speeduino guys. So like, I'm not going to make his engine management ECU worry about message sets other than it's going to observe a couple of specific messages with a filter, right? So it'll have its own CAN interface and it'll watch EGTs, and it'll have a limit based on that. But it's not going to see all the rest of the data that we're logging. We're going to send to the race pack. So we're actually sending, race pack CAN messages, which is published now. So, or Holley.
Something else to notate for people is when you're looking at CAN bus, you got to remember it's not like a 0 to 5 volt, or it's 2.5 volts and then plus or minus, right? So it's no messages are 2.5 flat line.
It's a net of 5
the high side is
roughly.
Right. It's a net of 5. But it's not like 1 is 0 and 1 is 5. High and low are.
There's not a ground or a positive.
And up.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
2.5 volts and down is the low.
There's some great YouTube tutorials. You can spend 3 minutes watching the first one and get 80% of the way to understanding, easier than we can explain it.
And like you said, Pico is super, super easy to make it work.
I like the Picoscope.
Really
That's how I learned CAN. That's how this last year. I had done some industrial stuff before, but I was just changing messages and remapping a couple of channels, simple stuff. Now, this latest, I've got a customer project. We're doing a bunch of testing. Man, I've seen some interesting stuff on CAN. I got to talk about a couple of these things, or at least one of these things. But been doing some testing.
The easiest way to teach it is to literally just walk people through it. I know we've talked about that, and I think that's really what it's going to come down. We just need to be like, hey,
trying to do it without putting people asleep, though. I don't know. Again, there's a bunch of great YouTube tutorials out there.
We're going to see what happens. Yeah, just start poking at it. I don't have a better option. Start poking at it and hope you figure it out. It's one of those, you're going to feel like an idiot, and then one day things will click, and it's literally going to be like a light switch once you get that to click.
Hang on, I'm typing in my answer, and the guy. Sorry, I'm back. I don't know what Tom the robot was just trying to say right there, but he's up in Canada or something. It's like R2D2 hitting whippets or something on study break. So what else? Oh, I was going to tell you guys this. So some of you know I'm working on this project. I'm testing different systems out. Holley's CAN bus. Let me say this. if you if you are sending info as an input to Holly Can, okay, and it's not the race pack version, it's their full on Holly Can configuration. It's a 1 megabit, which is a very fast CAN bus, and I actually hooked up a switch, okay, just a switch that was going from 0 to 5 volts when you'd flick the switch or you'd push the momentary button on the switch. Okay. And I had that switch going two places. The 0 to 5 volt output of that switch was going to this CAN device, and it was going to one of the analog inputs on a Holly Dominator. And I have data logs at 300 hertz, which is the fastest the internal logger of the Holly will log, where when I push the button on the switch, the CAN bus signal actually makes it into the data log one sample before the analog input on the Holly itself makes it into the data log, thereby implying that their CAN interface is every bit as fast or even slightly faster as their analog inputs, at least some of their analog inputs. They want me to check this out on all of them because I'm sure there's certain ones that get priorities, but I actually have data and I can show you guys this where the switch isn't recognized as being on until, and it's exactly like 0.004 seconds later than the one over the CAN
Where
bus.
the CAN bus data is just reported to the data logger faster than the analog is. That's the other option.
No,
like it's
what
got
we think. So check it out.
sample from analog.
No. Hang on.
Convert to digital.
There's more. Hang on.
And
There's
then
more.
go through a bunch.
Hang on. Stop. Just before we
It's
go
a
down the
conversion
path
step.
of not knowing, I can explain more. Hang on. So you can actually see. So we tested this a little bit more to kind of research this. You can actually see the voltage rising off of 0 more quickly on the analog input, but it doesn't achieve the complete 5 volts until one sample later than the other one. And ultimately what we found out was the capacitance on the inputs, because they're so well protected and they're also multi-use inputs. If you look at the schematics of a typical circuit that's required for an input that can do as many things as the Holly inputs can, they all have a voltage divider circuit in front of them. They all have RC filters, which slows things down. So it looks like they're about the same priority, but it's a capacitance issue was actually what we arrived at. Another interesting observation, Joe Oplowski once called me on the phone. This has been like 3 years ago, and he was testing with his G meters. He's like, man, the analog inputs in the Holly were responding more slowly. It made it look like a delay compared to running a race pack logger in the same car on the same output. And it ended up being the analog inputs were the deal. Same problem. He ran into the same thing 3 years earlier than we did. But I thought it was interesting. So if you're going to use Holly Can for input devices, I wouldn't hesitate to run even shock travel sensors over the CAN bus as fast as it reports. You're not going to notice one sample at 300 hertz. That's 0.004 seconds. So I was really impressed. The Holly was the one we were testing here recently. We'll be messing with some other ones soon. But it's a fun little test to do. How fast is my shit really working? And 300 hertz is fast. You have people talking about 1,000 hertz data for shock travel. Maybe if you're trying to calculate velocity and you want that high resolution, but man, 300 hertz seems like more than enough to me. Did I put everybody to sleep? I'm looking here. Yeah, so Jerry should have understood that.
10:45 at night's got me going to sleep.
Oh, we can wrap it up then.
I'm crashing.
Talking about it's only 7:30 here, 7:35 here.
New Vegas.
Yeah, you also don't have 2 feet of snow sitting outside your window, so.
Ooh, do you have that going on? That sucks because it's like 55
oh
out here right
man,
now.
so I'll see if I can find the picture. It's a really cool picture. Thank God we have a cool customer with literally AN General H1 Hummer, diesel Hummer, that saved our ass yesterday. Here, let me see if I can find this picture.
We're midwinter right now. It was like 55 today. It's gonna be 66 tomorrow. It's cold.
So
somebody told me it snowed here last week while I was out of town, so I was glad that I missed it. I mean, it would have been like flurries and melted right away, but
does Vegas get a 2-day winter like us?
Like 3-hour winter.
Yeah.
I mean,
much.
it gets cold as hell here for a few months. It really does get like brutally cold for a little while for what we're used to. And it feels like it's 20 degrees colder than the actual outside temperature because of the lack of humidity. But like if we get a real winter, it's like it's in and out and done. I mean, it'll be 35, 40 degrees at night, but it's been basically 50 to 60 most of the days since probably November to now. You know, it's not been terrible. It's like I said, it's still chilly. It feels 15 to 20 degrees colder than what it actually shows on the thermometer.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll show up.
Eh,
Yeah, like literally we almost had to winch this out. Like we had to air down the tires to not get it stuck. And if anyone's familiar with what a Cat 996 loader is, that's what we eventually had to use to clean the snow out of the lot. Like a Cat 996 is what they use in mines. They're the size of a semi. Like one loading a semi trailer, it's the bucket is sitting above the semi, and
They're
there's
big.
still cab above that. So yeah. Thank God this guy was cool and let us use his Hummer that was in our shop getting a bunch of rewiring work. For anyone that saw me post of the Hummer wiring mess, same Hummer, unfortunately. But someone got their hands on this and wanted to put every option in it and shouldn't have, but
Take a drink.
I finished mine. Yeah, the worst part is like
Brand, as a
we
guy
had
with a
three
classical-
four-wheel drive trucks. Dude, we got
Brand.
the shop owner got the 4-wheel drive 2020 Ram 3500 high sided. That's when we went and got the Hummer.
Shannon Davis or Chris Belliot. Let me tell you something about Shannon Davis in real life this weekend. I watched that dude, and I won't say because I don't want to throw anyone's game out there, but let's just say someone said that maybe someone voted for a certain political party, and this man took a hoodie and dropped it like it was lava on the ground and said he wouldn't sell him one and walked away from him. Like, Shannon Davis is crazier in person than he is when you talk to him on the phone or in the podcast.
I would believe that.
Scott Clark, you're muted if you're talking to your computer. I see you talking, and I see your mute sign out at the same time.
Dude, that's hilarious. I was just sitting here gabbing away, and I'm like, oh, fuck you. Nobody's listening to me. I don't care, whatever. But I had my mute button. It lights up differently. No, Shannon is awesome. I had like a 2-hour call with him before the show he was on. And it's interesting because he's been in that situation where the little business guy, where the big business tries to legally shit all over the little guy. You know, we're gonna show you. And he actually had some interesting stories. It was fun talking to him. I love that guy. So we got to get him back on. I think he's just in general a good dude. And he's committed to his whatever he's doing. He's committed to, and it's good. Oh, and there goes my camera one more time. You know the story with that? If you use a DSLR camera, they have to turn themselves off every 30 minutes if you use them for video, because otherwise some kind of licensing bullshit. They be considered a camcorder, and there's something weird about that. I don't know what the deal is there, but
got to find one that has that disabled. There's lots.
You can put an operating system
YouTube
on them.
Streamers that do that.
No. You can put an operating system on a lot of them that will, like a firmware hack that will fix that. And I've got that hack on this one, and I've done something wrong, so it still wasn't working. But it did add a whole bunch of other cool features. It even this camera originally couldn't do video, so I'm happy. It's just a piece of shit EOS Rebel SL1. That's like a 12-year-old camera. But anyway, so what else? So what are you guys using?
And Kenny Howard talking crap. He goes, "Yo, bro, it tells you you're muted when you talk." Freaking Zoom tube.
Hey, we could get Shane Tecklenburg on here. He's talking to Silas Geeson dinner. Although you road racing guys like worship Shane. It's pretty funny. He's a pretty down to earth guy. We could get him on here. He's funny as shit. I know Shane from Bonneville. We have kind of a thing where about once every 4 years, when we're actually all out there together, that we'll all have a beer together. Him and his old man.
The Mosworks guys would be cool too, just from a different aspect of the drag racing world. And
that would.
Engine builders.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind. I respect those guys because of horsepower per cubic inch. They dominate. Yes. Should have loaded Linux on your camera. Yeah, well, there's not like a quick Ubuntu image for that, Kenny. Sorry, I can't. I have to compile something. That's real work. Let's see. What else? Get Shane on. All right. I'll talk to Tecklenburg. See if he wants to get on here. Anybody else got questions?
So Kenny's asking what do other guys use for webcams? I mean, well, Clark's using the DSL. I've just got the Akaso EK7000, which doubles also as a camera that I use in my race car. I've got a couple of them. I've got a Sony action cam I use in race cars too, but it doesn't double as a webcam. Like it's an older one that doesn't have the right stuff to do that. Obviously, you can buy the generic, Logitech webcams. A lot of people like those. I think Dalquist has one of those little Logitech webcams, if I remember right.
I'm using the factory camera on my laptop right now. Working just fine.
Seems to work.
A lot of laptop cameras work great.
I muted you, Barnhill. Sorry, man, but your typing was like taking over. He's a fast typist. I bet he took a typing class in college.
I remember taking a typing class in like high school, and I sucked. I didn't do jack squat for it. I really didn't start typing fast until like I really started using computers as an adult.
Like I remember doing like a BS typing class in like middle school, and like they do all that stuff. Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, it was probably when I started using computers a lot more in some high school, but definitely college when I'd be like writing stuff or coding or I don't know. Because I remember that was like, as I say, typing classes, that's still a thing? Was that ever like, it was barely a thing when I was in high school. It's just sitting in front of a keyboard all the time.
Sorry, I'm answering dump valve questions for Chase. Sorry. So Chase Griffith, check that. Check out what I just typed there. That may help you out. I'm kind of referring him to his trans guy. It depends on your dump setup.
Jake, I talked to Mark tonight. He says it was freezing rain when he was driving home as he was trying to leave work and drive home, and everybody was sliding everywhere. So up in Fargo up there, it's or Argusville, Fargo, it's frozen, nasty crap right now.
I'm getting dysentery on the Oregon Trail. Oh my God, we must be the same age. PJ must be in his 40s, his mid 40s. That's funny.
Attack by ninjas, lose 7 days.
Trail. Sorry.
Attacked by ninjas, lose 3 days.
Right. No, Oregon Trail.
I'm sorry, I missed Chase's question, bro. That's very torque converter dependent. Like some cars, you grab the dump valve on as soon as you grab the button, and I might shut it off at 3 or 4 pounds of boost. Like still on the brake, the valve will shut off. Some cars you walk it down track. Some cars you shut it off right at release the brake. It's all torque converter trans dependent. And turbo dependent what the combo wants.
I'm looking for Jesse Coburn's question he asked about. I'm scrolling back. What did I miss? I don't see it. I know it's been talked about a lot, but what point is it a good idea to make the switch from running E85 to C16? Running a 400 cubic inch small block Chevy twin 76 75s, build atomizer 225s and FT600. I don't like the atomizer 225s, by the way. Let's see. Is the gas going to live at 30 PSI? You're going to be right on the edge, in my opinion, with that combo. E85 has this weird, doesn't detonate like you think, but it still breaks shit when you're at its limit. I'd say high 20 PSI on that combo is a good idea to have your C16 tune in. You don't got to drive it around on the street that way. You can drive around on pump gas, just like Larry did. But you can, when you're going to race it, when you're going to be beating on it, I'd do the C16 tune at that point where you're at.
I love E85 as a fuel, but it does this cool thing where the tune-up looks perfect. And
then all of a sudden, all the Roger bank.
As I was like, E85 is great till it's not, and then it's really bad.
There's no sign.
Lots of not great.
Nothing's wrong. Right off the side of the block.
Beat the bearings out of it. Yep.
Yeah.
And I love the fuel. I'm not knocking it, but know its limitations. Somewhere in that 3.5 horsepower to 4 horsepower per cubic inch range.
Yeah.
I just hate the pictures Perduto sends me of how much cheaper it is where he is.
That is pretty funny.
A lot of that depends on the engine you're running it in too, because I know some 5.0 Mustang guys, some Coyote guys, E85 all day long, 30, 35 PSI, one guy 38, no problem. So I think a lot of it depends on how aggressive you get with the tune and what motor you have it in.
Well, yeah, but so a 5.0 on 38 pounds probably makes 900 horse, 1,000 horse. So they're still playing in that
Makes,
300 or 3.5, maybe 3.7 horsepower
Yeah, I know.
significant range.
I know the one in at 38 is somewhere 12, 1300.
Yeah, so he's right around that 4 horsepower per cube. He's starting to walk that line now.
If I was Jesse, he's got a fuel tech, man. You can have a tune for each one of these. You got to just save a good tune for C16 and then one for the whatever. You can have one for whatever fuel you want.
Load them as you go.
The thing that sucks though is those build atomizer 225s have a super high minimum open time, man. I'd be on 210s or some of Tom's injectors before I'd have the money in the BAs, honestly, at that level. I'd use the build atomizers when you need a 700 pounder. What about MLS head gaskets? Yay or nay? I don't know, man. Engine builder question. Maybe the guys here have a recommendation.
They work phenomenal to a certain point. You got to find where that limit is, and every engine will be slightly different. Like a lot of LS combos will be 30, 35 pounds, no problems on MLS. I think Derek Kelly said for a while he was 40 pounds on an MLS till he finally changed.
Yep.
You know, so it's just a matter of finding where your limit is. I mean, if you're going to be like, if you have problems at 14 pounds on MLS, you're doing something wrong in the tune. If you have problems at 30 pounds, well, maybe that's something to do with maybe it's time to switch at that point on your motor.
All right. Going once, going twice. Anyone else? Guys feel like wrapping it up for the night? We're almost there.
I'm reading about the world's fastest Evo, 700 horsepower, 2.3.
He's talking about Extreme Tuners. I want to get the Greek guy from Extreme Tuners on here.
Yeah,
that would be hilarious. we get a bunch of viewers on that show. Okay. Now we got to see how we're going to do this with Jason being remote. So he's like 30-second behind listening. But I think we're ready to wind it down.
Okay, it can go to a black screen.
No,
a little
Silas,
bit.
you put hot sauce on eggs, not ketchup.
Nice. Thank you all for tuning in. Sorry we weren't. I got like 3 shows behind on recordings putting these up. I wonder if Jason started the recording. Maybe he did.
Yeah. Silas, are you one of those guys that puts ketchup on your mac and cheese too? Because ketchup on eggs is wrong.
It's kind of wrong. It's kind of wrong. I don't want to be telling people what to do, but
there's a portion of the Midwest that's ketchup on eggs.
Those people are wrong.
Now you do put cheese on your apple pie. Don't forget.
Oh, dude, I still have not brought myself to try that. That was, I think, the first
really
thing
good.
I ever heard about.
Dude,
Bradenton.
I tried it. It was super good. I was like, and Bewley's like, I'm telling you, man, you got to listen to more of his advice. Just like, he told me, he's like, that's a southern
I think it
thing.
depends on.
It was fucking good.
I think it depends on what kind of cheese you do too, because obviously there's probably some cheeses that would not go good with at all. And there's some cheeses that are probably phenomenal.
I thought it was good. I just slapped a piece of his piece of Swiss on that one. Actually, you're right, but.
Hang on, real quick, what injectors do you recommend? Entirely dependent on combination. I don't know when we're going to shut down, but send me a PM, Tom at FID, or send Tom. Tom's listening, or Tom's on here. Tom Sewell, Field Injector Development. He'll guide you where you need to go.
Very good. All right, I think going once, going twice.
Just kill it.
I'm telling him to go ahead and. Jason's gonna do this remotely. This should be pretty cool. Music is playing, he says. Okay, it is playing. And we're just
fries, burgers, and wiener-shaped meat.
He's bringing it in. All right, fade us out, Jason. That's pretty cool. All right, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll talk to you guys probably next week, I think. I may try to do some live stuff from the dyno cell with the gas turbine engine, just since a couple of you are actually interested in it. So, all right, we'll mute everybody, and guys, stay in the group. We'll talk here and chat for a little bit, and everybody else, take care. Have a good night.